Most people think being mentally unbreakable means never feeling pain, never feeling fear, never feeling doubt. That idea alone already sets them up to fail. Because the truth is, strength isn't the absence of emotion. Strength is control in the presence of emotion. It's the ability to stay standing when your mind is screaming at you to quit. It's the skill of remaining steady when everything around you is unstable. That is what the Stoics understood long before the modern world ever tried to define mental toughness. You don't become unbreakable by winning every battle. You become unbreakable by learning how to lose without losing yourself. You become unbreakable when your inner world no longer depends on outer conditions, when praise doesn't inflate you, when insult doesn't destroy you, when chaos doesn't command you. The first shift is understanding what is truly under your control. Not the economy, not the weather, not what people think, not who leaves and who stays. The only thing you ever truly own is your response. Your thoughts, your decisions, your actions. Everything else is borrowed. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, your mind stops wasting energy on illusions. And when your energy is no longer leaking into things you can't command, it becomes sharpened, focused, and powerful. Mental unbreakability begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How will I respond to this?" One question makes you a victim. The other makes you a force. Pain is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Every discomfort contains information. Every setback carries instruction. But most people numb themselves instead of listening. They scroll, they distract, they escape. And in doing so, they delay their growth. The Stoic does the opposite. They sit with discomfort, they observe it, they learn from it. They extract strength from it. You don't grow when life is easy. You grow when life demands more from you than you think you can give, and then you give anyway. To become mentally unbreakable, you must stop negotiating with weakness. Weakness always asks politely at first, "Sleep in today," avoid the hard conversation, skip the workout, postpone the goal. But every time you agree with it, you reinforce the identity of someone who retreats. And over time, that retreat becomes a habit. Discipline, on the other hand, is the identity of someone who advances even when they don't feel like it. The Stoics didn't wait for motivation. They acted based on principle. They understood that feelings are weather. They change without warning. But character must be climate. It must remain steady. If you only do what feels good, you will always be ruled by comfort. And comfort is the fastest way to decay. Your mind becomes unbreakable when your daily actions prove that you can be trusted under pressure. Every time you do the hard thing when it would be easier to fold, you build evidence. And that evidence compounds into unshakable confidence. Not loud confidence, not performative confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. Unbreakable people do not seek validation. They seek alignment. Alignment between who they say they are and what they do when no one is watching. Another pillar of Stoic resilience is preparing for adversity before it arrives. Most people hope life will be soft on them. The Stoic quietly trains for life to be hard. Not out of pessimism, but out of respect for reality. They rehearse loss. They mentally walk through failure. They imagine rejection, not to suffer twice, but to weaken the shock when it comes. When hardship arrives, most people are stunned. The Stoic simply says, "I knew you would come." And because they expected it, they are not broken by it. You cannot control when the storm hits, but you can control how built your shelter is. Mental unbreakability also means emotional mastery. This does not mean suppressing emotion. It means not obeying it blindly. Anger can give you energy, but it can also rob you of judgment. Fear can protect you, but it can also imprison you. Pleasure can heal you, but it can also enslave you. The Stoic does not let any single emotion hold the throne. You are not your anger. You are not your anxiety. You are not your sadness. You are the observer of all of them. And the moment you remember that, they lose their absolute power over you. One of the fastest ways to destroy your mental strength is to tie your self-worth to opinions. The crowd is unstable. Today they praise you, tomorrow they ignore you. The same voice that cheers can turn hostile in a moment. If your confidence is built on other people's approval, then other people own you. The Stoic builds worth internally, on effort, on integrity, on consistency, on self-respect. When you no longer need applause, you become dangerous to manipulation. Another truth most people avoid is that suffering is not equally distributed. Some lives are objectively harder than others. Some people face deeper losses, heavier burdens, sharper betrayals. Stoicism does not deny this, but it also refuses to let suffering become an identity. You can be wounded without becoming weak, scarred without becoming fragile. Your past explains you, but it doesn't excuse you. It can inform your path, but it doesn't dictate your ceiling. Mental unbreakability is built when you stop asking life to be fair and start asking yourself to be formidable. Every day you wake up, your mind is either being trained or being neglected. There is no neutral. What you consume becomes what you think. What you think becomes what you tolerate. What you tolerate becomes what you accept, and what you accept becomes who you are. Strength starts with awareness, with noticing the patterns that keep pulling you backward, the triggers that hijack your peace, the habits that drain your power, and instead of judging yourself for them, you calmly dismantle them one by one. You don't need to change everything today. You only need to win the next decision. One of the Stoicist ideas ever conceived is that your time is your most valuable possession. Not money, not status, time. Because time is the only thing you can never earn back. Every meaningless argument, every ego-driven reaction, every moment spent chasing approval is a silent theft from your future. The unbreakable mind spends time intentionally. It chooses rest without guilt. It chooses work without resentment. It chooses solitude without loneliness. Solitude is not isolation. It is where the mind sharpens itself. You also become unbreakable by learning to endure silence. Most people can't. They fill every quiet moment with noise because silence forces them to face themselves. But silence is where self-mastery is born. When there is no distraction left, what remains is the truth about who you are becoming. And from that truth, you rebuild. Another critical part of Stoic strength is voluntary hardship, choosing small discomforts on your own terms so that larger ones don't destroy you. Cold, hunger, loneliness, fatigue. Discipline teaches your nervous system that discomfort is survivable, that pain is temporary, that you are not as fragile as you once believed. The person who avoids discomfort at all costs becomes extremely fragile. The person who meets discomfort daily becomes extraordinarily resilient. You don't need extreme hardship to train strength. You need consistency in choosing what is difficult over what is easy. Mental unbreakability also requires humility. Not the weakness kind, the powerful kind. The kind that says, I do not know everything, and I am willing to learn. The ego shatters under pressure because it must always defend an image. The disciplined mind bends, adapts, and improves. Ego wants to be right. Strength wants to be effective. You will never be unbreakable if you need to always appear strong. True strength allows itself to be human, tired, hurt, unsure, and yet still moving forward. There will be days when you feel behind in life, when others seem ahead, when your progress feels invisible. The Stoic answer is simple and ruthless. Comparison is irrelevant. You are not racing anyone. You are building someone. And that construction is private. If no one sees your improvement but you, it still counts. Mental unbreakability also comes from accepting impermanence. Everything you love will change. People will leave, bodies will age, status will shift, comfort will fade. The sooner you accept this, the less shocked you will be when it happens.
The Stoic does not cling to what is temporary as if it were permanent. They appreciate without attachment. They love without possession. They enjoy without dependency. That is power. You become unbreakable when your happiness no longer needs perfect conditions, when it can exist in simplicity, in effort, in purpose, not in constant stimulation. Most people want peace without discipline, but peace is earned through order, through saying no when it would be easier to say yes, through leaving when it would be easier to stay, through standing alone when it would be easier to blend in. The disciplined mind is calm because it trusts itself. The undisciplined mind is anxious because it knows it cannot be relied upon. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce your foundation. Every time you break one, you plant doubt. Your mind becomes unbreakable when you become someone you do not second-guess. At the end of the day, Stoicism is not about suppressing life. It's about meeting life fully, without collapse, without illusion, without dependency on outcomes. You will still feel pain. You will still feel loss. You will still feel fear, but you will no longer be owned by them. You will move through them. And that is the difference between those who shatter under pressure and those who harden into something unbreakable. You don't become unbreakable all at once. You become it one decision at a time, one boundary at a time, one uncomfortable moment at a time, one quiet act of discipline when no one is clapping. And one day, you look back and realize something important. Life didn't get easier. You just became stronger.